Hello everyone, today I'll show you how I built this medieval fantasy house for Warhammer the Old World, using simple tools and crafting techniques. Welcome to my channel, Layers of Legend. My name is Ulysses, and in my spare time, I love collecting and painting classic Warhammer miniatures, but most of all, I love scratch building terrain. My dad got me these books back in the early 2000s. As a kid, I would spend hours reading them, dreaming of massive miniature battlefields. Even after all these years, these books are still a great source of inspiration. When I read them, I instantly time travel. Alright, let's get to work. We'll use XPS foam, cardboard, and balsa wood, along with some wood glue and super glue, and a hot wire foam cutter. I start by cutting the XPS foam to size to create the stone walls of the base floor. Next, I measure and mark where the door, windows and wooden beams will go. I then spend some time drawing the stone patterns with a ballpoint pen. It is important to look at real-life references when sketching these patterns. For a more organic look, I like to vary the height of the rows. After that, I use a sharp hobby knife to cut along the lines I drew earlier. I use tweezers to tear parts of the foam, and carefully carve the stones using the hobby knife. And here is the result before and after the carving process. Using the hot wire cutter, I carve out spaces for the beams and the door. Alright, let's make some wooden beams. I like to use balsa wood because it's light and soft and can be easily textured. More balsa wood for the door planks and thin pieces of XPS for the horizontal rails. A twisted wire and a piece of cardboard make a nice door handle. I also added nails and hinges for extra detail. Now here's a quick tip for realistic walls with mortar. I pour a generous amount of baking soda and carefully brush off the excess, leaving it only in the recesses. To fix everything in place, I mix wood glue, water and a drop of dish soap to help the mixture flow into the recesses. Once dry, it looks very cool. Time to glue together the four walls to assemble the base floor. The second floor design features plenty of wooden planks. For this, I use coffee stir sticks, carefully beveled with a hobby knife. And this is what it looks like before and after beveling the edges. Once the planks are ready, it's time to glue them onto thick cardboard, previously cut to the wall dimensions. Every 3 or 4 planks, I leave a gap to further attach thicker balsa wood beams. Coffee stir sticks are cheap but harder than balsa wood, so I use cutting pliers to trim them. After some sanding, I trace the outlines of the walls, windows and horizontal wooden beams. Cool, it is starting to take shape. To glue the external beams to the different sides, I use a bit of tape for support. Okay, our 4 walls are now finished and we can glue them together. This French fry basket has a metal wire that is about the right scale to create stained glass windows. After adding diagonal beams and extra details here and there, I can now glue the 2 floors together. I fill this gap with some balsa wood and then draw lines to mark where the future roof supports will go. To make the base of the roof, I cut and fold a piece of cardboard to size. Then glue 2 pieces of XPS underneath to maintain the right angle. I also added a chimney off camera. To create the roof shingles, I use a technique commonly found on YouTube crafting channels. I make evenly spaced cuts on a piece of XPS foam. Then I carefully melt the sides with a hot wire to create a texture. To make the illusion of an old wood effect, I mark the surface with a wire brush. I then cut a thin piece to create a double-sided strip of shingles, which I can later on cut in half. If we repeat this process with patience, we end up with plenty of strips. It is a bit time-consuming, but trust me, it is much faster than gluing individual shingles by hand. Speaking of which, you can see how fast and satisfying it is to mount the strips on the roof. To finish it, I trim the excess strips on the top and the sides. Then I add a few individual shingles at the very top. Finally, I cover the exposed edges with 2 balsa planks for a clean finish. Alright, I'm really happy to say that the build is now complete. Time to focus on the painting. I use water-based spray cans to create a zenithal base coat that will protect the build and make the details pop. For the hand painting, I use craft acrylic paints. Real-life stones display a great range of colors, so I begin by applying different hues of ochre, red and blue grays. After that, I dry brush everything with beige and white to highlight the details. Old wood tends to become grey over time. To create this effect, I like to base coat with raw umber, and then I dry brush everything with different hues of grey. At this stage, I'm not entirely happy with the stone walls, so I make the bold decision to repaint them. I want the mortar to be more visible and lighter, so I base coat everything with beige. Then I repaint each stone in different hues. After some dry brush, we get a cool looking limestone effect. I use diluted paint to add warmer brands to the top of the planks. If you look at real-life references, you can see that weathering usually creates a top-to-bottom gradient. I base coat the roof with a mix of raw umber and blue, followed by a few dry brushes of greys and lighter blues. After painting the chimney, I apply a saturated green to the lower parts of the planks and stones, focusing on areas where water would accumulate and moss would grow. Okay, time to paint the door. I imagine that this old door was once painted in a bright red, but has faded over time. After painting the metal details, I apply a wash, and I also add orange paint around the nails to create an old rusty look. I have to admit, adding the finishing touches is one of the most satisfying parts of the build. Alright, the house is now finished. This build was a real pleasure to make, and I am thrilled with how it turned out. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe for more. Hope to see you next time. Bye.